Note to self. It's a beautiful truth. Fear is a natural currency. Beautiful. If people didn't want to be afraid, I'd be out of a job. That's something we entrepreneurs capitalize on. I've embraced fear my whole life. Say what you like. There's nothing unique about getting off on fear. I'm just more honest than most. People scare me, so I put myself out there. Those porcelain dolls terrify me, especially the ones with the moving glass eyes. I've got one of the largest collections in the world. I was interviewed about it. Heights terrify me more than anything. I live on the top floor of my own apartment complex. Glass walls, naturally. I was interviewed about that, too. I invest in fear. I've got stakes in all of its major industries, horror movies, theme parks, and, of course, the news. People call my business eclectic. Crap. I exploit one market, and I do it better than all my competitors. Terrorists, politicians, drug companies, psychologists. They could all learn from me. So a woman died of heart failure on one of my rides. I designed that ride myself. Most theme parks would play down that kind of incident. Not me. I'm running front page coverage. The ride that scares to death. It's not the biggest ride in the world, not the tallest, fastest, longest, or most expensive, but it will be the most popular now. Anyway, I should be getting ready for the funeral. I keep all my newspaper cuttings, magazine articles, references and books, anything people say about me. Some people don't know how to handle fame. It scares them. It scares me. That's why I love it. That journalist, Jonathan Eldard, you know, the socialist one with the big nose, said I'm one of the most disgusting men alive. That was around the time I was accused of heating up racial tension in London. Crap. I simply pointed out that we have a lot to fear. I'm not responsible for what people do when they're scared. Not all journalists are so negative. Brilliant, successful, and honest. The poster boy for the self-made men. Champion against political correctness. Hilary Cunningham wrote all those headlines. You know her, that conservative journalist with the buck teeth. What else did she say? A paradigm of morality in an amoral world of drugs, prostitution, rock and roll, and homosexuality. She's not even in my employment. Best PR money didn't buy. My friend, Owen T. Frederick Bennettwood, described me as the Fountainhead meets Marquis de Sade. Well, I say friend, but friends are merely people you're so well acquainted with you forget to fear them. I'm not that stupid. Owen has nothing to do with my businesses. He's not a journalist, director, or investor. He's the most popular philosopher-writer in the country, thanks to me. You remember that article my newspaper ran, describing him as a postmodern idiotarian and amoral scum, an intellectual panderer to the worst despots and mass murderers in the world. That line made him. It was written by Eric Penner, my prize journalist. You know the one, always on Newsnight. Penner claimed that Owen would be prepared to kill anyone if he thought it was in his own interests. A few months later, Owen met Penner at one of my film premieres. Owen shook Penner's hand and kept hold. "The reason you hate me," he said, "isn't that I'll kill anyone, but that I wouldn't condemn you for doing the same." Penner published that on his blog, one of the best-known soundbites on the internet. You can see it for yourself. It's on both Owen's and Penner's Wikipedia pages. Right, that's me showered and shaved. What shall I wear, Armani or Gucci? The ride that scares to death. My ultimate achievement. Hilary Cunningham hasn't written a word about the incident. Typical. If something disturbs a conservative's worldview, you can rely on them to look away. Jonathan Eldard had a field day. Perhaps he's my number one PR person after all, not Cunningham. Utterly tasteless, this monster of a man will capitalize on anyone's death. Priceless. Since he won't that, we've had to take advance bookings for the ride. It was too much for Eric Penner. He quit the day I made him publish the story, but Owen wrote a great article in this week's Living with Philosophy. This amounts to the thesis and antithesis of modern values unified in a new synthesis. It is the catastrophic apocalypse of meaning, the nightmare version of the Hegelian dialectical process played out in the entertainment industry. No one understands what he's talking about, which is just as well. They can all pretend it confirms their own opinions. They all agree I've gone too far this time, which means they'll all be gagging to try the ride for themselves. Well, they'll have to book. Armani. I think the double-breasted with the grey silk tie. The funeral. It's not quite as I imagined it. If I'd had it my way, there would be rows of media hacks here. I could have seated Hillary and Jonathan next to each other. My brother ruined that idea. He threatened to beat to death any journalist who dared to turn up. I invited a few anyway, but the cowards heard about the threats. When I was a young journalist, I'd have risen to the challenge. You can't buy fear like that. How long is the priest going to drone on? Ghastly, monotone elegy. Could be about anyone. Clergy today have no showmanship. Those old-style preachers could really rip up a crowd, scare people to within an inch of their lives. Still, probably just as well they've gone off the boil. The last thing the entertainment industry needs is competition from faith peddlers. He'll be pressing the button any moment now. There it goes, the awful clunk of the catafalque, accompanied by Abide With Me from the acne-faced organist. Anticlimax. Note to self. Film idea. A dark, stormy day, a Gothic chapel, organ music fades as the camera pans into a close-up of the priest, one of those zealots. Blazing eyes, big voice, a Klaus Kinski type but less insane. A procession of mourners winds through an unkept graveyard in the pelting rain. They huddle round the slippery gravesides under black umbrellas while the skull-face bearers lower the coffin and the minister intones, "Man that is born of woman has but a short time to live. He flourishes like the grass of the fields. The wind comes over and the grass is gone, and its place will know it no more. Ashes to ashes." That's a cue for the mourners to throw in clods of wet earth to the accompaniment of their wails. Camera pans back. New scene. A cue. Close-up of the line of terrified faces waiting for their turn on The Ride That Scares to Death. It will be my best film yet. It's so satisfying to know my mother didn't die in vain. As we file out of the crematorium, I smile, say to myself, "Now people will know your name."